and it doesn't feel so overwhelming as like, see this countdown. It's really very like,
it's a
get
little
ready.
It's a little
It's a
stimulating.
little less.
I don't know. Can you guys see? I just hennaed my hair. Can you see the difference in the color, Kylie?
What did you do?
I henna my hair instead of dyeing it.
Oh, amazing.
It's
yes.
super. You can see it? Okay. Because it's
No, I can't see it because your video on here to me is eternally fuzzy. The only one that's clear is mine.
All the time?
Forever. No, I don't know. But
Weird.
so no, I can hardly see.
Okay.
You.
I'll send you. Well then. I'm sorry for that. That's
I am too.
No. Cool. So I just wanted to check in, see if you guys could see my hair, but you can't.
Your hair looks good though, you know, and all
it looks good.
Fuzzy glory.
Thank you. I will send you a clearer picture later when I can get it in the light.
Wait, I want to ask the question this week. What are you drinking? I did it. I went right to it.
Yes. Jumping on in there. Who are you asking though?
I'm asking you to start because I saw you drinking.
Yes, yes. So I have my usual. It is 8 a.m. over here, and so I've had an apple and this protein shake. Not nearly enough, but we're doing it. And so
we're doing it.
We're doing it. I just did some protein powder and my normal Ovacetol. I just found out that some people call it Ovacetol. I don't know why.
Oh.
There we go again. I'm just restructuring the English language.
This is not the first word that we were like, I'm not really sure.
Not the first word. Nope. And it won't be the last. I promise you that. So Ovacetol, whatever we want to call it, it's in there, as well as some protein powder. And I had an apple. Oh, and there's some, are you guys familiar with Ripple milk?
Yes.
The brand Ripple.
Does it have like the coconut oil in it or something?
No, it has. Okay. So some of the flavors might, because I recently recommended this to a client once and she came back to me and she was like, are you sure this is the one you wanted? Because there's all this crap in here. And I was like, that's weird. But it's the original unsweetened. It's a very specific. They have apparently an original sweetened and like all the things, which I don't know why you do that, but whatever.
Is it almond milk?
It's pea milk, and I need to specify PEA because when I say this to clients, immediately they're like, "What are you telling me to drink? You crazy!"
I mean, I knew you were a weirdo, but that's too far.
On the desert island.
I know. Yeah, exactly. They're like, "I need my money back, miss. I did not pay you to tell me to drink pea milk. Thank you."
That's yummy. I don't think I've ever tried it.
I like it for me because it's got like something like 8 grams of protein in a 6 to 8 grams of protein in in a cup. So it's pretty similar to soy milk and cow's milk, but not soy or cow's milk.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Anyway, what are you drinking, Kylie?
I'm going to have you guess. I mean, you know, I have coffee. I just got a little coffee, but just take a wild guess.
Okay,
it's not that wild.
I'm gonna guess that the coffee is the almond butter latte from the place near you.
Oh no, it's not. But now I want that. I love you for knowing that. Oh my God, no, this is just coffee I warmed up from this morning. It's not even very delicious.
I've been thinking about that almond butter latte since you told me about it, and I've been
butter.
Kylie, you need to tell Jennifer about this almond butter.
Listen, there's a place. It's a coffee shop here. It's local in DC, but they've got a ton of them here called Compass, and they do an almond butter latte. And most of the time, I can't get a sweetener or like a flavor in a latte because it instantly gives me a headache. It's disgusting. It has that weird sugary, but they make their syrups there, and they do an almond butter one, and it is. We love you, Compass.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's so good. So unfortunately now, thank you for pointing out that that's not what this is. This is just regular old coffee. Yeah. Exactly. But I'm also drinking, what would you guess? Besides coffee. It's my favorite.
You're Four Sigmatic, I'm sure. Maybe no.
Wow, we're really name dropping here, and I feel very seen. Thank you. No, keep going. There are 2 other things that I often drink. I'm realizing
Olipop.
That's it.
Yes. For those of you who cannot see us, she is in fact drinking Olipop.
eternally. I'm sorry. That was supposed to be way more obvious than it ended up being.
No, you know what it was? I've been listening. We've been talking about Four Sigmatic and the almond butter latte. It's like I was pulling out the archives from a while ago, whereas Olipop was more recent, at least on these episodes. So that's why it took me a while to get there.
And they were all very me. They were all completely appropriate responses. So anyway.
You guys are so good with your hydration. I'm like terrible. I'm drinking Starbucks here.
No, that's fine too. What are you drinking from Starbucks? Tell us.
So I get a decaf espresso with iced, lots and lots of ice, and added water and a little cream.
Oh,
so it mixes all together. It's like it's like dessert almost. I think.
Yum.
I can't give up like cream. I just love creaminess, and I can't find like almond milk. It just doesn't do it for me.
You won't find it in almond milk.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah, not the same. Agreed.
So I figured, you know what? I enjoy it. I'm gonna savor it and just trust that my body knows what it's doing and can process it.
What a concept. What a concept, huh?
Ooh,
oh my gosh. You know, that is a good lead in. Why don't you tell us who you are? Tell us who you are. Sure. What do you do? Introduce yourself.
Thank you for having me on into this like fun, playful space with you ladies.
You're welcome.
So I'm Jennifer Bronsnick, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm also a health coach, a human design specialist, a heart math practitioner. And so in my work, I work mostly with women with anxiety. And now, because I'm going through my own divorce, I'm almost to the end of that whole process. That's, that journey. I am feeling called to hold other women's hands through that process so that they can, because I feel amazing. Like divorce has been really empowering for me, but only because I had the right tools and the right support in place. And so when I go and I'm on all these Facebook groups for divorcing women, and I'm like, this can be so much better, ladies. Like you can have fun in your divorce. You can, go date during your divorce. You can sort of create this next chapter. But I think a lot of people get stuck in the either, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And sort of in this fear space. So it's like helping people shift through this massive, probably like one of the most stressful adult life transitions is divorcing, especially with children.
I can imagine.
And it can be awesome. It can be really transformative. You can call in all these new soul family members while you release other family members, maybe from their side, right? Wow. So it's this space of creating your next chapter from this elevated, expansive place. So that is what I'm calling in, and it's sort of starting to offer probably September. Right now, I'm still gathering and I'm in summer mode, really. So I'm gathering wisdom at this point. Signed up for a divorce coaching program just so I feel like I have the foundation, and also bring all the other things I mentioned. So the heart math, the nutrition, the anxiety treatment, tapping, all those things.
That's so cool.
Okay, I feel like we just created the outline. So here I want to talk about anxiety in the first place, which is such a disgustingly broad category, but I do want to talk about a few things. I want you to tell us what heart math, tapping, and blueprint, what's the
human design?
Thank you. Yes, I could only have blueprint in my head.
Yeah.
And I really, Meg, can we go here? Yes. I want to hear more about the divorce piece. I was sitting at a table last week there were 3 guys and 3 girls, and all 3 of us were in our early 30s and had been or are in the process of getting divorced.
Interesting.
And we were like, it's becoming a rite of passage in a way. And I'm not saying that in the same way that you have like a sweet 16, right? I'm not saying it's something to look forward to or to plan for or to like go into marriage planning on happening, right? But my point is that's like, wow, it happens a lot.
Every day. Half of all marriages, like 70% of all second marriages, like it's
oh wow,
not
I didn't
a
know that.
death sentence.
Wow.
But it is very
That's a
lonely
crazy
feeling.
amount.
Yeah.
It's very lonely. And anyway, okay. So which one of those things feels like a good starting point? Because what do you want?
Yeah. I mean, so okay, anxiety. So you're right. There are many reasons for anxiety. It could be your marriage. It could be that relationship can be very dysregulating to a nervous system. And I found that a lot. And
I just want you to repeat what you just said about how your emotions, or sorry, your relationships can actually dysregulate your nervous system. Because I think that's not a connection that we make often about anxiety. It's like, oh, I have anxiety, but you're not realizing that anxiety is actually your nervous system is effed up.
Right.
Like you're messing it up.
Your environment can create, like, right. So you walk into your home, there's clutter everywhere. Your partner, and bringing in human design a little bit, because I don't think that everything is personal, right? Sometimes it's just an energy mismatch where you're not meant for everybody and not everybody is meant for you. And we ignore the signals in our bodies around who is good for us and who isn't, because our mind is like, well, but they do this, they do that. They're, good 29% of the time. So like, it's okay. And we ignore our body. And our body will start screaming at us to be like, this is not safe for you anymore. And it doesn't have to be a violent relationship. You can leave if you walk into a room and you see your partner and all you want to do is run away. That is a sign to leave. You don't have to stay there. You can start a different relationship where you don't feel that way. So we're looking at anxiety. We're looking at relationships. We're looking at our environment, and that includes our relationships, work, diet, nutrition, lifestyle choices, caffeine, alcohol. There can be toxins. We could have excess copper. We could have excess mercury. Our body could just not be able to process things as well, which increases our anxiety. I had a copper IUD, which led me to have severe panic attacks and anxiety. It wasn't a mental illness. It was something in my body. And I think we miss that a lot with people, where in my practice, I'll run hair samples and I'll see, what are your minerals at? Because if you have no magnesium and no potassium, which helps your body to relax and calm down, of course, your nervous system is going to be anxious. You're going to feel the physical sensations of anxiety. So there's that piece, but there's also the mental side of anxiety, right? There's the ruminating thoughts. There's the OCD type of behaviors. So anxiety, there's so many different things happening. At its core, no matter what's causing the anxiety, whether it's the physiological stuff, you still have this brain thing that's happening where the amygdala is scanning for danger, whether it's the environment, whether it's inside, whether it's something in the body. And then the amygdala sends a message to your adrenal glands, which are like, get us out of here. And then we release 1,400 chemicals, adrenaline, cortisol, that make us feel like crap in our body, which leads that anxiety cycle, which is sort of what leads into heart math, how that's connected to anxiety. So with heart math, we're looking at those things like anxiety that trigger that, we'll call it the depleting emotional response: anger, anxiety, stress, fear, sadness, depression. Those, as well as anxiety, those emotions are releasing similar chemicals that are draining to our body. And so with heart math, we're looking to figure out and become more empowered, because another thing with anxiety is we sometimes become a victim of our circumstances. So with heart math, we're looking at our emotions and saying, actually, we can choose. I can choose to shift into a feeling, a state of ease right now, just by deciding it. I can choose to feel gratitude right now by thinking of people that I love. I can choose love right now by looking at the two of you. And so, but I think we often get stuck in, what, this is happening to me. We get into a space of fear and sort of pessimism around our symptoms, where when we begin to see, oh, actually, we can choose to shift and practice these skills over and over every day. It's not just like a one-time thing. It's like you don't go to the gym one time and then go run a marathon. Right. You train for it. It's a training. HeartMath is a training program to help you get to that point where you're resilient, which so then the anxiety, whenever it shows up, is like, oh, okay, like, hey, how are you? Like, I know what you are. I'm not afraid of you. Okay, let's keep living our life. And that's the goal.
I love that you said that. And I love that because I'm sure there may be some people listening right now who have been struggling with severe anxiety for a long time. And maybe the idea that they have the option to choose doesn't sit well with them, or that, and that's totally fine. But I think your message is that even for a millisecond, if you can use these tools to help gradually build these skills. And so no matter where you are on your anxiety journey, it sounds like you're saying there are tools that are within your grasp immediately that you can use to build on. Is that right?
Yeah. And I was that person. I mean, the whole reason I treat anxiety is because I've lived with anxiety forever. So I was the kid that chased after her mom's car and never wanted to go to school. I had seizures when I was a kid. So I was always afraid of like, what if my parents weren't around and something, happened to me? I would have panic attacks in the grocery store. And so it was through my own healing journey, which is why in my practice, I only treat what I've been through. Because I want to make sure that I get it and I can come from that perspective rather than being, an expert that's up here. It's like, no, like I know what it feels like to have a panic attack. I know the feeling of thinking you are dying. And that is what it feels like. You might as well be dying. It feels that terrible. Yeah. And it was through my own healing journey that I feel like I can now speak to people that are going through it, because I know how hard it is. I also know that there are certainly actions that we can take that takes us out of that place of hopelessness. And there, like when I first realized it was anxiety, I didn't have a name for it until I was like in my 30s. My whole my thought was, I'm just going to get hypnotized. I'm going to get hypnotized and it's going to take the anxiety away. Like I'm never going to have panic attacks and it's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And he wouldn't hypnotize me. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, so instead he gave me a 45-minute meditation that I was supposed to listen to every single day. I'm like, that is not freaking happening. So I think I saw him a couple sessions and he wouldn't hypnotize me. I don't even know if he knew how to hypnotize people. And then I was like, all right, so I'm gonna figure this out myself. Like, I'm going to look at my diet. I'm going to stop drinking. I'm going to, learn every freaking tool that's on the planet to deal with my own anxiety. And then I'm going to teach it to everybody.
Wow.
That story took a quick turn.
Yeah.
Like, why hypnotizing?
I thought it sounded like a really effective, smart strategy of like, just take it away. Like, just, like tell my brain, like put it over there, put it in like whatever subconscious.
Okay. This is a perfect segue into what I was just going to ask you, because I think, and I feel this way myself sometimes, that rather than the perspective of to use your words, what tools exist to be able to help deal with anxiety, rather than thinking I'm broken, something's wrong with me because I am anxious and have anxiety attacks, and therefore I have to just get rid of them or else. Would you, when you have people come to you, do you find that there's a lot of rewriting that perspective in order to be able to say, hey, here are the things I'm going to teach you. It's about that, rather than just trying to get rid of a thing that you're not going to necessarily feel successful in?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, we all have anxiety. We all have an amygdala. It just, some people have more interoception, meaning they can sense the changes in their body a little bit more, which tends to make them more anxious. Some people have parents that were really, really wonderful, but never really let them explore the world safely. Some people just have, more physical sensations, which leads to that. And so the first thing is normalizing that we all have it. Like there is no one on the planet that does, like they would probably be really injured, because anxiety serves a purpose. It helps to keep us safe. If there is a dangerous, like something around a corner, our nervous system, our anxiety is going to protect us and be like, get out of here. That's what it's for. So we don't want to get rid of anxiety. That is never the goal. We want to keep that system in place because that is our safety survival system. That's why we're here. And if you go back to our ancestors, like that's why we're all anxious, because the people that our ancestors who were like the cavemen that were chill, like, oh, whatever, it's just a bunny in that bush, like they were eaten, right? So they didn't pass their genes down to the rest of us. So we have these negative, anxious brains because all our brain cares about is survival. It does not care if you're happy or not scared. It would rather you be scared because then you do nothing. But your soul wants so much more. Your soul wants to explore it all. And so what we have to do is get really comfortable with being uncomfortable and being uncertain. And so it's sort of retraining ourselves, because with anxiety, it's always this like, ooh, like, wait, what's going to happen? Like, I don't know, this could go wrong. Our negativity bias is going to come in. So we want to shift that mindset to, okay, what could go wrong? Yeah. I want that. I want that thing so bad. And we're not going to do that without teaching some tools, right? We're going to teach some deep breathing. We're going to educate about what's happening with anxiety. Once you understand, like, oh, it's just my physiology, I'm not dying. Okay. Then I'm going to deep breathe. Maybe I'll drink some water. I'm going to move my body. I'm going to go with a friend if that is comforting to you. So you're not going to go on offense without having a little training. But the goal is to go on offense. It's to push our edges and to see, okay, if I'm not afraid every week, something is wrong.
Oh my God. I'm envisioning a scenario where like, it's almost like a dissociation kind of that you've described. That's probably not the right terminology. I don't know. But
I
like like a separation, I guess, of separating yourself from the feeling so that it's not all consuming,
Exactly. Yeah. I love that.
And what I'm picturing is almost like a bye, Felicia. Like this Felicia, she keeps coming to pick on me and I don't appreciate it. And we're just going to meet her right where she is and tell her to go fuck herself. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how
So that is and that's perfect. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's what, when I teach kids anxiety proof classes, one of the things we do is we pull out, we call it the worry part. Everybody's got a worry part.
Oh my
God, so we pull out the worry part, we name the worry part, we draw the worry part. So you're exactly right. Then you can talk back to it and be like, oh, this isn't me. I don't have anxiety. I have a worry part that's trying to boss me around and say, you can't do it. You're not good enough. And they love it. I bring it up with my daughter every day. It's like, that's your worry part. Like, oh, your belly hurts. That's your worry part. And so it's getting them that language. So then you recognize that it's not you. So you take away the shame of it.
Yes. So like this strategy can be used for adults, right? Because I feel
no, your worry part is Felicia for sure. Obviously.
Yes, obviously.
I can't wait to see the picture of her when you're after this call.
Oh, I will. Don't you worry. You'll get one. You'll get several because I feel like once Felicia meets my like alter ego Sapphire something, I don't know, like whatever that is, the movie star one, they're just gonna butt heads.
Yeah. And then you're gonna have a conversation around like, is this actually dangerous? Is this thing that I'm afraid of really gonna hurt me? And sometimes the answer is yes, and you don't want to do it. You don't want kids to be like all fearless. You want them to be wise about pushing their edges, but also being safe, right? It's always find that balance. And I've had a really hard time with COVID land, because there's what I would say, oh, go push past your fear. I can't do that, because there's actually something to, like, depending on who, your beliefs are, but there is, something that we are fearful of. So people, normally I'm like, get out, go do stuff, where then we're told, actually, we can't go anywhere for 2 years. So it was really hard. And I think people are now trying to come back, and I'm hoping that there is almost like a doubling of the pushing the edges because we had to pull back so much. So that's sort of what I'm hoping we see.
I am finding myself feeling way more than I was anticipating in this conversation. I was like geared up to like chat with girlfriends and like have a, you know what I mean? Because that's how I feel with both of you.
Kylie, it never works out that way. Don't you forget. These episodes never work out that way. We are always called out.
Once again, I'm feeling like, why am I doing this? Why am I bringing these people on? Why am I learning so much about myself in these an hour and a half segment? It's just ridiculous. But I'm also, I guess, to say very, I'm interested. It's interesting to me that I'm feeling that way because what it seems to mean is that I was feeling myself like there was something wrong, not necessarily with me, for feeling anxious about whatever, you know, the like list I have in my head right now, but thinking that automatically meant that I was doing something wrong or I was in a situation that was wrong. And having the option, the invitation, if you will, to say like, maybe you're being dramatic. Maybe you just need to like be okay being uncomfortable and then see what happens. Chill, right? Like very, very interesting for me.
Play with it. Like, okay, I'm feeling this way right now. Okay, that's interesting. What if I did this? What if I went outside? Would I feel different? What if I went for a walk? Would that change anything? So sometimes it's not having this agenda of I'm going to do this and I'm going to get rid of it and I'm going to battle it. Right.
That's how I feel. That's how I feel.
Like, let me be curious with it. Like, did I eat something today? Because sometimes food, like sugar, dyes, alcohol, like there's lots of things we put in our body that makes us feel not eating. Right. Yeah. That drop in blood sugar, it feels the same as a panic attack. So if people are eating tons of sugar and they have anxiety, it's likely the sugar. And if they cut it out, they would probably notice a significant drop in their high and low symptoms throughout the day of anxiety.
Totally.
But I think it's, you know, in life, it's all about how do I stay open and curious? Like that curiosity is my number one, you know, value strength. And I think it works really well, especially when we're looking with anxiety, because we resist it so much. And anytime you're in resistance, you're using so much energy. It's like trying to hold the beach ball under the water. It is exhausting you and creating more anxiety. So if you can just like, okay, bring it, like bring the sensations, like once you know. And that's it. So let's wind back a little bit. So you always, if you are experiencing anxiety, any sort of mental health condition, go to the doctor. Like that is step one. Like you have to figure out, like it could be a thyroid issue. There could be a blood sugar issue. You could have diabetes. Like there are medical conditions that anxiety is a symptom of. So you always want to rule that out first. Once you know that you are fine and healthy, which happens with all of my clients, then when the worry part, when the anxiety symptoms start, you know that they're not going to kill you. So I think you have to get to that point first. Then you can work with it. Then you can play with it. Then you can get curious with it. Then you can see, well, how much can I tolerate? If I do this, does it make it more anxious? You know, does it make the symptoms bigger if I pay attention? What if I think about my big toe? Does that change anything? So it's like, you know, little random things where you're staying in a state of play.
So if in the example of, okay, some random person is in the moment of, no, I won't even say an anxiety attack necessarily, but in the moment feeling all of a sudden, or just like a feeling of being unsettled, or maybe they have been feeling that way all day and just in that moment, 5 hours in, are realizing like, oh, this is that thing. And that's why I've been feeling blah, blah, blah this morning. So what you're saying, one of these tools is being curious. So saying and kind of like making a mental checklist. And this checklist is completely arbitrary, right? What did I eat? How did I sleep? What's my toe doing? Right? Like, right. All of these random things. And what might somebody expect? And I'm sure there's a million different outcomes from doing and using that particular tool in the moment.
Yeah, it depends, going back to, what was the root cause? Are they dehydrated? What if I drank a glass of water? Let me see how that's going to go. Let me see what's going to happen in my body. Because what increases anxiety is our thoughts about anxiety. It's, oh, I'm dying. Usually that's the one that either I'm having a heart attack, I'm dying, I'm going to pass out. Dizziness is another one that creates more anxiety. So it's, I think nausea. The first thing, nausea. Oh yeah. Anything stomach, digestive issues, 100%. Yeah. Like I'm gonna have to go to the bathroom. It's gonna be embarrassing. I'm gonna be humiliated. Right. All of those things.
Spiral.
Right. Yeah. And what really helped me was this idea of people are actually really kind and loving. Because if I pass out, if I throw up in the store, most people aren't going to be like, ew, like like they're not going to judge and shame me. Like they're not fifth graders. Right.
Right.
So, and if that happens, like, and we're there, like, it's like, can I help you? Like, what do you need? Like, there is so much love and care in the world. And so it's almost reminding yourself every time you go somewhere, if like there's a place that you're anxious, it's like, people are loving. There's so much love. People want to help. So it's kind of changing that mindset to people are going to judge me. People are going to shame me. Because that's a lot of the fear of anxiety is like it's not even the anxiety. It's what are people going to think about me when this happens? So there's this sort of, we are social beings, right? And the fear of rejection and abandonment is very real.
Yes.
And so if you can shift your mindset to, oh no, like people are going to love me even more. They're gonna, and I'm giving them if this happens, like I'm giving them an opportunity to help. I'm actually helping their karma if they have to help me. So it's like I'm doing them a favor by passing out in the store. But I would say most people with anxiety, I mean, there are some extreme cases where people do have like extreme vasovagal responses where they do actually pass out. But again, there are people are helpers, like Mr. Rogers. There's helpers everywhere, right?
Love Mr. Rogers.
So look for the helpers. They will show up, like, because I don't know. I feel like that angels walk among us in the form of other human beings. And, they're sent to be on our soul journey with us, even though they're strangers. So it's just that trusting of a bigger plan, a bigger purpose, and it's okay to be embarrassed. It's okay to be humiliated. And if you read Existential Kink, which is a great book, it's like, yeah, there's a party that actually gets turned on by it. So if you can get to the point where it's like, yeah, that like, you don't want to be embarrassed, then go on offense, like do something really embarrassing and then watch how you tolerate it. Because you will. When the thing is happening, you figure it out. It's our fear of the thing happening that causes the most suffering. But when it's actually happening, you surrender and it's just, you're in the moment and you just get through it.
I feel like you could start with something small too. Like you're not saying, oh, I don't think you're saying, you can correct me, or you could, I don't know, like if it feels right for someone to just go out and do like the biggest, most embarrassing thing that they could think of, if that feels right for them, then sure. But I think if you're somebody like me who's sitting here right now being like, oh my God, what would I do to embarrass myself? Like I think I would probably be like a little like, let me put my toes in, do something little embarrassing at first, and then we'll see where, do you know what I mean? Like it sounds like that's also an option.
Well, you want to have tools to calm your nervous system. You don't want to create a trauma for yourself. So it's that fine line between, okay, how far can I go and still tolerate the sensation? So I'm going to feel a little uncomfortable, fine, but I'm not, like you said, dissociating. I'm not going into full freeze mode. I am, not like screaming at people. Like we're looking at those fight flight responses. So you want to push the edges, but not so far that you have a trauma experience, which is why you want to learn the coping tools. So then it's like, okay, what can I do? Can I do some breath work as I'm moving through this experience? Okay, it's not working. I can pull back. So it's a little forward, a little back, and you're always, it's that dance of how far can I go? And everybody's different. Everybody has their own edge around, things that they resist. But it's those things that you're afraid of that you resist that really will give you the most growth in your life. And then you'll feel so proud of yourself, which feels amazing.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that people are actually really resistant to letting go of how they identify as being an anxious person? Or like are resistant to the work because it means changing how they see themselves?
So there's this concept of secondary gain. So thinking of kids, right? We as children and as adults, but as kids especially, we love attention. And so what sometimes happens is the child that is fearful or anxious, we hover, we're there, we're over loving them, we're giving them so much attention, we're reinforcing the behavior. So there is that idea of like, there's actually something you're gaining from having this. Like, so maybe you're getting out of going to parties. Maybe you don't have to like go to the family gatherings you don't want to. Maybe you get to not go to school that day because there's going to be some resistance, because what happens is those gains, if you're not anxious, right? What happens to the attention? So with parents, I'm always teaching, give positive attention when they're brave, when they do things that are resilient. You want to shift where you're paying the most attention to reinforce that behavior, because we are behavioral beings, so we're not going to do something very long if there's no benefit.
Right.
So thinking of it that way.
Could you also think of this method, what you just described, as like a self-reparenting method too? Like for someone, because when you were talking, I was hearing what you're saying, but of course I was also trying to think like internally how it might apply to me, someone who doesn't have kids. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm on this like self-reparenting journey. I can reparent myself and give myself positive action or whatever you said.
Yeah.
But does it work the same way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have within us this, warm, nurturing mother, right? Because every parent fails, because they're humans. That we just think like, oh, you're a parent, you must know it all. They're just doing their best, and so we can access this, this warm, kind, mother-father role within ourselves, and say, well, what do I need them to say to me about the situation? Do I need them? Because, for me, in my experience, my parents were really, really loving and didn't always push me to push my limits, to push my edges. It was, they actually kind of liked me being home and around and comfortable. So they didn't benefit from me exploring my world. It wasn't until I became a teenager where then it's like that's when you're differentiating from your parents and, sort of rebelling in my case. But as a young kid, when I was the most anxious, it was like they benefited from me being anxious because then I was with them. So maybe my inner parent would be like, no, like you don't have to be perfect. Like you can just go and try. You can like go and do it. Like go talk to, those kids or, whatever it is. So sort of like pushing me out of the nest a little bit more, where I think sometimes we think of that reparenting as like the love and, the care that we didn't receive, where like I felt really incredibly loved. Like overloved, really. So, for me, it's the reverse. It's like maybe a little bit more tough love would have benefited me more.
So
and everybody's unique, right? Every situation and which is why I think anxiety, it's really a customized thing. There isn't just one, which is why like, I don't want to necessarily go down this pathway, but like, oh, here's one medication that's going to work for everybody. Like, in what land are we living? Like there's, a million different reasons. Like if it's a trauma, okay, yes, if the medication is going to help you with the symptoms so that then you can work with a therapist to help you heal the trauma, I'm on board. But if it's just like you're going to get the medication from your primary care doctor, never see a therapist, never see a healer, never look at nutrition, it's, to me, that is incredibly dangerous because the medications stop working after a time. And then you have to add more, and then you have to switch, and then there's side effects. And so like I get very concerned when medication's the only form of treatment when we're looking at really any, I'm going to say mental health, because I don't believe in mental health versus physical. They're all connected. So I don't know how I got on this tangent, but
no, that's
well,
so
actually,
good.
Yeah, and it brought me up to a question of what I know you've made it clear, and I think in all of our fields we feel the same way, that there is no one individualized treatment for everybody. But what are some of the modalities that you use to holistically manage or treat anxiety specifically, maybe?
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about human design. So human design, I'll look at someone's birth information. So I'm looking at their energy and seeing where they're taking in from other people and amplifying it, and some of the behavioral patterns and how they've been making decisions. Sometimes when we're suffering, it's really our soul has just gotten off of our path and we need something to pivot to bring us back to alignment. So it's looking at where are we out of alignment, and human design is a great tool to do that. It's also a great tool to increase self-compassion, that is the core of any sort of treatment, is we have to have compassion for ourselves and our experience.
Brutal. So hard for people.
Totally.
So hard.
Of course. But that is, that is the root of everything. It's like, just, it's okay. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. And this is what you needed in your journey, this experience. Your soul wanted it. It wanted you. And I find that anxiety especially is a great way for people to start exploring like personal growth, right? Because you'll do anything to not feel anxious. So it's like, teach me whatever you want. Like, I will take it because this feels so terrible. So I think it can be a really great door opener for learning different things about yourself. The other thing I'll look at is hair sample. So I run an HTMA, a hair sample, which looks at minerals and also toxins in the hair. And you can see if there's thyroid issues that are non-detectable. You can see if there's adrenal issues. You can see what metabolism looks like. And it really just helps you get a snapshot over what's happening in the body to give a little bit of direction. And I also think every time someone's come to me, there's never been a health reason for their anxiety, but on their HTMA, there are things that are showing, like especially copper toxicity and iodine deficiency are two main ones that show up, which also have this, it's a physical sensation of anxiety. And so even sometimes when they see that, it's like, they just feel validated, even if they change nothing about their diet. It's really this mental, it's like, oh, I'm not crazy. Okay. And I'm not dying. It's just, these are some things I have to work on. And then they have just a couple, maybe they want to add in more protein, maybe they want to reduce sugar, maybe they want to get more hydrated or try some different supplements. I'm not a big supplement pusher because I just find they're really expensive and people don't take them oftentimes. So there's, ways to get more magnesium in food, or maybe through baths, or, potassium in food and potassium broths. And so it's really, helping people to see like sometimes little changes, and even just the change, the placebo effect is incredibly powerful. Like if you believe something is going to work, that you feel better. Like it's really the magic of our mind and the power of our mind. And then I also look at sleep, are they drinking alcohol? Are they drinking caffeine all day? Because some people don't connect what they're putting in their body and anxiety. Because they've been told that anxiety is a mental health condition. So there isn't this awareness of the body and how what we're feeding ourselves is going to impact our mood in many different ways.
Oh, that's such a good point. Oh my gosh.
I've seen I've seen quite a few of my clients who I'm doing gut health with them, right?
Yeah.
And they come in and they're on medication for anxiety, and I don't talk to them about their medication because that's way outside my scope.
No, you shouldn't. Yeah.
But then they decide at the end of our time together, they'll message me and say, hey, I just want you to know I have not needed this medication and I've decided to come off of it. And it's like, that's not what I do, right? But
it is what you do.
It is right. But right. Exactly.
And anxiety.
It is a huge testament to what you're saying about the things that come into your body and the things that don't. And the things that don't. And when you take out the barriers and allow your body to find that equilibrium, it does it everywhere, not just in the gut, but like it provides the space that everything needs to be able to realign, just as you were saying. So it is. It's really interesting. I have a question, and I don't know how specific a question this is. It might be a little bit of an annoying question, but
there is no annoying question ever.
People that you've worked with who have traumatic experiences, probably most people, right? Such a subjective term. And some things are far more straightforward. Like, wow, yes, anybody could see that particular thing would be traumatic, and some of it is far more subtle. But do you find, let's use, for example, really obvious situations, that those people who have had those experiences have a harder time dealing with anxiety, or a harder time putting the tools into use, or more resistance? Like, do you see any sort of connection?
I mean, what I would say, if you've ever looked up the ACEs study, which is basically a study that looked at people that have had traumas and how many traumas in early life, there's negative consequences across the board. So mental health, physical health, there's, the impact of trauma at an early age is significant. And what I would say is that, one, I believe healing is possible for everyone. I don't think that anything is hopeless, and that with the right tools, the right guide, really, that everybody has the potential to live their most perfect, thriving life. And healing the nervous system and processing the trauma, so using tapping or EMDR, has to be part of. You can't heal trauma with a top-down approach, meaning you can't cure trauma with cognitive behavioral therapy. It will not work. You have to access the body in some way, which is why the tapping, and then the EMDR, which uses the bilateral stimulation. So you could access it through the body. Like, you could tap like this when you're processing a memory. But it's oftentimes the bilateral stimulation where you're moving back and forth. And it's basically like, because how our memories are all stored, we want to use both sides of our brain to reprocess what happened, so that when we think about the memory, it no longer creates the emotional response, because the trauma is in the past, right? But we live it as if it is in the now. And so you want to reprocess it to make the body feel as though you are safe now. And then when you feel safe, you don't have the reactivity or the angry outburst, because the trauma, it creates trouble in relationships, oftentimes because of how you're hyper vigilant in a lot of different ways. And it's very uncomfortable in the body when our nervous system's activated. So we will use substances it's a treatment modality, right? They're trying to change their state in the only way that they know how. But then there's what's the consequence of that? Like, oftentimes when I work with couples, it's always because of alcohol that there are issues in the relation. Not always, 99% of the time. It's when I'm drinking, this is what I say. And but they're drinking because they're uncomfortable in their body, and they're looking for a way to relax or calm sort of that amygdala, because alcohol is effective at doing that in the moment, not so great the next day. So it's looking at people, whatever you're doing, whether it's an eating disorder, whether it's alcohol, like, everybody is trying just to cope. They're all coping tools. And we have to, I think, have compassion for that experience. And then, for the person that's using them, it's being able to self-reflect and say, okay, is this still working? Is there something else that maybe I could explore that's going to give me the solution that I need, that doesn't have the consequences? And sometimes we need to get to rock bottom before we realize it, but it's never to shame the person for their coping tools, because they're just trying to survive.
Wow. Yeah. It really does put a compassionate spin on all of it.
Yeah,
it does. Yeah. I just want you to clarify, because I'm sure some people who are listening are probably hearing us talk about trauma and traumatic experiences, and immediately they're probably like, oh, I don't have trauma. And we've touched upon this in in other episodes,
Okay,
but
cool.
can you just tell us, like, what is trauma? What is defined as trauma? Is it a specific thing? Does it have to be like a certain level of thing of whatever? Or tell us, what is trauma?
Yeah, to me is trauma is any experience where you feel unsafe to either be your authentic self or that your life as you know it is in danger somehow. So like I'll share a trauma, which people are going to be like, that was a trauma. So I was with a group of kids. I was probably in 4th grade. One of the boys threw gum in my hair in front of everybody else. And then everybody was laughing at me. And so I got on my bike, like crying, and rode home. So like, was that a big T trauma? Was my life in danger? No, but my authenticity, my feeling part of a group was in danger. And so that created, we'll call it a little T trauma. Where then like I learned like, oh, people are dangerous, right? Like I'm going to be bullied. I'm going to be teased. So the next time I'm in a group of people, my body's going to be on high alert. It's going to say like, oh, are you going to do this again? Because our brain remembers negativity, right? So our brain is always going to be scanning then for potential negative things to happen from that experience. And it's all about trauma. That might not be a trauma for someone else. I just happen to be incredibly sensitive as a kid. So depending on your nervous system, something could happen. A loud noise around a little baby that's a sensitive baby could be traumatic. So it's a subjective experience of if you feel unsafe in really any way to be your authentic self, that you are going to be abandoned or rejected from a community, that your life is in danger, life as you know it, I would say, whether it's a physical, danger experience. And of course, when there's like, I think when you think of trauma, it's like you think of war, right? Or, things like, of course, like obviously you get that is traumatic. But I think there also can be these little traumas that happen over and over and over to us that still have an impact on our nervous system and our ability to cope in the world and our anxiety.
Yeah.
Can you put some words to the idea of feeling unsafe in your own body? Because when you say that, I think I know what you mean. But I find that it's difficult I have a hard time explaining what I mean when I might be feeling that and explaining the concept to somebody else. And I think it's sort of an abstract thing, but what words might you use to help explain that?
Yeah, to me, it's almost like a skin crawling sensation of like my body isn't my body. It's like I'm so disconnected from my body that I'm so aware and conscious of everything happening in my body. And it's like a losing of control. That is my experience, where it's like I feel like I have no control over my heart racing, my stomach issues. It's like this. I think for me, it's that, like, I think I go to flee a lot or fawn. Those are my two responses to it. I'm not like a fighter. I'm more of like, let me dissociate. Like there's things that happen like in my childhood. I'm like, I don't remember any of that. Like I just blacked that out. So it's almost like a leaving of my body in a way. So I don't know, but I think it's unique for everybody. I mean, why don't you share? What does it feel like for you when you have those symptoms?
Yeah, what does it feel like? It feels like, I think for me, I do get that sensation like my heart starts going.
Yep.
And I think it's softer. It's softer, just like all of my like intuitive nudges. It's really annoying. It's never this like smack in the face. It's a very gentle like whispering, which is very challenging for me. And I think this sensation is equally the same, because then sometimes it takes hours or days for me to pick up like, and by that time like destruction has been done in the meantime. It's just like internally and sometimes externally. So And that's why it's difficult. Even I'm having a hard time putting words to it, like I said. So Meg, what do you feel? Do you feel this way?
Yeah, but I feel like for me, it's sheer panic. Like I definitely experience the skin crawliness that Jennifer, that you were talking about sometimes, but it is sheer and utter panic, almost like a paralysis sometimes.
Wow.
Like
just
freeze,
freeze response.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. It's
I
very
don't
intense for me.
relate to
There's
that.
some
That's
great
insane.
videos of watching animals and their fight flight response. Because what will happen, like especially with the freeze response, is they will play dead and then they will start shaking, right? To get like the energy off. And then they'll get up and run away. Like nothing happened. Like there's literally no story around I almost died. It's just that is what the body does.
Wait, that's what it is. It's the story that we create around this super normal response, physiological response that then makes us feel all sorts of shit.
Right.
It's not real. It's our decision. Not that the sensations aren't real.
Absolutely.
But like the
and they
story.
feel terrible. Yes.
Yeah. Whoa. That's it.
Crazy.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line to all of this. I'm just having an epiphany. That's it. Yeah.
Breakthrough.
Live just for you guys. Kylie having an epiphany, everybody.
Just for you. Just for you. No, Meg, I relate to your feeling if I feel like I'm not in a safe spot, which doesn't happen often. But if I'm like out in the city walking around and I'm happen to be alone and I'm walking and I see somebody, it is instant and I'll just walk a different way. Even if you think, right, you just, those are not.
Yeah.
Anyway, that gets a whole segue that we're not going to go down. But
trusting your gut, trusting that it's there for a reason. Like your amygdala is picking up on so many things you're not consciously aware of. And so it's allowing your anxiety to do what it's supposed to do, which is keep you alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. That's a literal example of survival instinct right there.
Yeah. So the next time my husband does something that makes me anxious, I'm just going to drop dead. I'm just going to play dead.
And actually, don't forget the shaking. Please shake.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Look, Kylie, you know how much I love shaking. I mean, butt shakes are my love language. So
that's perfect. This is good. So actually, this is a great concept to teach with anxiety is that let's say that you go to freeze. So what would it look like to fight? Do the opposite. Can you be flexible with your stress response? Like if you're normally like I'm a fawner, but going through my divorce has turned me into a fighter. Like I am. So then you get this like, ooh, that's actually like I realized today, like also I got into like this Instagram argument with like a group of guys and I realized that I like poking the bear. I like the feeling of like, so as much as I don't like, right, like who likes anxiety? Oh, I like anxiety. There's a part of me that loves when my nervous system is like flipped on and I'm like kind of like getting in there and they're coming back at me, but it's like, okay, like this is what I wanted. Like I wanted to feel this like fight in my body. And so once I realized that, I was like, that's interesting. Like I always thought like I played like the, the fawn, like, like I'll just give in to you and like say, oh, you're right. Whatever you say. But then once it's like, oh no, this is fun. Like that's kind of a turn on actually. Let me see who else I can nudge and get them to trigger me in some way. So it's humanity. It's playful. It's not, doing it to everybody, right? Like that wouldn't be healthy either. We don't want to constantly create drama in our lives. This is a space to say, well, how could I explore differently? And then watch what happens. And then maybe I want to poke the bear on Instagram, but maybe I don't want to poke the bear with my kids. Right. So it's being able to be flexible, which is a big deal in anxiety because anxiety is very rigid. We want things to be how they are and that is how they go. And if they're not, then we freak out. And so building in that space of flexibility is really important. Looking at instead of catastrophizing, we want to problem solve. Instead of focusing on ourselves, we want to focus on other people. So these are the cognitive skills that we really need to practice. And I think social media sometimes can be like a fun place to do that. Cause like, who cares? Like, I don't know these guys, like their fake names or whatever, but it's like, ooh, this is kind of fun. Like, and for a minute I was like, oh, I don't like this. And I was like, actually, like, I do like this.
I'm into this.
This is hot.
I'm into this. That is more about the story. I am a person who fights back because somebody told me that. I mean, I'm not saying that that's actually not me, but that's the story that we end up with. Like, that it's so interesting. If you create your story that you like refuse to let go of, then you can create a different one that serves you better. It's this like really interesting, but that means letting go of something that you curated for decades of time to be just this perfect like shitstorm for yourself.
Yeah.
And it sometimes is hard to let go. I'm experiencing this right now. It's very hard to let go of a piece of you that you unconsciously or conscious, mostly I suspect unconsciously, have built brick by brick by brick by brick your whole life, and then realize like this is not okay.
This is not me. This is what I've been conditioned, right? Because like we all get conditioned, which is why women typically go to the fawning, is because like be the good girl, right?
Oh,
so like going back to my gum experience, like I could have chosen to be like, I don't know if I can swear on this, but like,
you sure can.
I'm like, you motherfucker, like you threw gum in my hair, like I'm gonna throw gum in your, like, you know, letting him have it. Instead, I ran away and cried. Right. So like that was the trauma. The trauma wasn't even the freaking gum. It was my reaction to it where I didn't stand up for myself.
Oh, right.
And so now it's like, oh, you're going to come at me like with these, like in the divorce, there's always something, right?
I love it.
And then once you have the experience of standing up for yourself, it's like, you feel the sense of power, and it's pretty amazing actually. And then you realize like, oh my God, like I've just been told to be the good girl so that you're accepted. You don't create drama. You don't get in trouble. Like who wants to get in trouble, right? And so we stop standing up for ourselves. And now we are in the space of like, first of all, for women, especially right now, like our voices need to be freaking loud. Like there can be no fawning. Like there can be no freezing and anxiety. The reason we treat anxiety is because once you can deal with those sensations, then you can speak your truth, and then you can stand up for yourself. And then, you know, like it gives you this incredible amount of power, personal power, empowerment, resiliency. And then you can do whatever you want because anxiety stops you from doing all the things you want.
Yeah. I just thought we were talking too about being the good girl. And I realized that the one consistent compliment I always got when I was growing up is, she's so nice.
Nice.
She's so nice.
Totally, Meg. Yes.
Oh, I don't want to be nice. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to be that. And I just think that's so interesting because I've gone through different phases in my life where there are specific periods of time where I can remember where I was very much a fighter. And I mean, I'm not kidding. I got some stories for another time. But I was a fighter.
For those. Yeah.
Part two. Meg tells her stories of when she was her fighter. But then there's also these other times that I can think of that I'm like, what was I doing? That's not me. I just stood there. And I think it's funny because those periods of time always happened after the periods of time I can think of where I fought. And it was almost as if I got, like, I felt like I was getting, I don't know, lashback or whatever. I don't know what you would call it. But like I wasn't being
getting abandoned in some way, or like you weren't being included.
Yeah, or something. Like but I just think that's really interesting that I thought anyway, just wanted to share that.
And that's sort of like why human design leads into it too, is because human design, we can see where we're conditioned. If we have open solar plexus, which is our emotional center, we amplify other people's emotions. So we will avoid making a wave because we don't want to feel it because it's amplified for us, even though it's not necessarily what they're feeling. But then it's like, I just want to make nice. I'm going to not speak my truth because I don't want to feel your emotions. So we sort of
Oh my God.
manipulate the situation
I think
so
Kylie
that we
feels called out.
don't have to feel it. Which is a survival technique, which works for a while until it doesn't work anymore. And then we realize that we're self-abandoning, and then we become resentful and bitter. And then it's a balancing act of how can we be kind and also honor our own truth. You know, and really there isn't a right way to do it. It's a balancing act.
When I was getting divorced, or I should say after getting divorced, I had a very similar experience to you, where in that relationship, I was very, very passive. And to make you happy, even if I knew that it wasn't the right thing, or that it wasn't okay, or it wasn't going to set us up to be in a better spot. Like anything to avoid the thought and feeling that you are not going to be happy.
Yeah.
Like disgusting.
Yeah.
And now
so common. So common.
Oh my God. Anyway, now Brian is like, who is that person? Can a little bit of her come back? Because you're on the other side now. Like I have swung so far the other way in response, as in reaction to rather this like bad situation that I put myself in, and now it's equally like, okay, girl, you gotta find the middle ground. It has been a journey of questioning, who are you?
Yeah.
Like being able to identify what you need and want in order to even be in a place to speak your, like knowing what your truth is, to be able to speak it. It's like that's the step before, right? And anyway, bless him.
But you're a relational being. So who you are with him is different than who you were with your first husband, you know, with your husband.
Yeah.
So we all bring up different, and again, it feels like survival, right? Because there's different energies.
Yes, it
and
does.
so we shift and mold ourselves in order for, you know, relationships to work. And it's normal. It's, you know, it's very common. So it's always that check in with yourself of like, am I, you know, do I feel authentic? Do I feel like I'm courageous? Do I feel like I'm understanding my emotions? Am I able to speak my truth? And you can't manipulate they're going to have feelings if you have a different truth than them. And so then it's learning how to process the emotional energy. Okay, I don't have to take this on as myself. Like you're allowed to have your own experience. And so am I. And it's a journey. And I love relationships. Like I'm getting divorced, and like I'm also dating, and dating has been really helpful in understanding myself better, because I'm now seeing myself through different perspectives, where with my soon to be ex-husband, like I played very similar role. Like what can I do? Can I make your plate for you? Can I keep everybody quiet so you don't get upset? Like, can I put eggshells enough so that you will be happy? And then I will be happy because you're happy. Like that was my experience.
Wow.
So now in the dating realm, what do I desire? Like I have a whole list of things. Like every time I date someone, like, yes, I want that, but I don't put on my list. I only put things on my list because that's like what I'm manifesting, right? So it's like, I desire someone that can actually say no to me, but also can say it with respect and compassion, where I can also say no to them. You know, someone to grow, that understands emotions, that can hold my emotions when I'm a woman. So they're going to be like up and down. You know, I'm going to feel this way one day and this way another day. I'm still the same person. You know, it's just finding that right match. And there's never a perfect match, but there's people that you can grow with and people that are actually creating anxiety and more stress in your body. Stay with even if you're married to them, like you can leave. So I think people need permission to, even if there's kids, even if there's whatever, like you can figure it out. You know, there's a lot to break free when you have the right resources. Really, it comes down to.
Wow. Oh, huge.
And we have come full circle, my
and
dear
here
God.
we are. Oh God.
Everybody's like a real drink now.
Yeah. I don't care. It's only
my
9 a.m. here, but I don't care. We're gonna get a mimosa after this, I think.
What about, I just want to ask this last sum up question, because I think that a lot of people are going to be listening to this and thinking, well, I'm not in a relationship. I'm not getting divorced. I'm not married, and like questioning. So what about for people who have that, is something that they might like down the road, to be in a relationship or to be married, and they're trying to do the right work now so that they can understand exactly who am I? What is my authentic self? What do I want and need? Like, what couple little tools or things might you say, this might be a really cool way for you to explore that, so you're in the best spot you could be in?
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes back to curiosity. What makes you feel good? What brings you joy? What do you like doing? Where do you need to see your value? Where do you need to see your own worth? And so it's getting to the point of, and I look at dating, like, don't go into a date like this is going to be your husband or wife. Like, go into it with like, oh, this is another human soul that I'm curious about to connect with. And like every interaction, you're going to learn something from those interactions, but never having this agenda of it has to be this way. So I think it's that, being in a space of, oh, I wonder, would I like this? Could I deal with this? Like, if they're doing this behavior, is this a behavior I could deal with for the rest of my life? And then that gives you more answers, like, oh no, like I couldn't be with someone that like demeans the waiters, or, I couldn't be with someone that like throws their litter out the window, so it's really noticing like, what are the things that you can tolerate? Because nobody's perfect. You're never going to get, perfect anything really, because we're not perfect as humans. But there are certain things that are things you can tolerate. And it's also making your own joy and fun, and not looking for that relationship to complete you in any way. You are already complete. And so it's finding those things in your life that are full of joy, and then that person adds to that enjoyment of your life. And maybe you share memories together, but then you share memories with your friends. I mean, that's one thing I didn't do, is I literally did nothing for 12 years. Like I spent I took care of my children. So I've got 3 kids. So I was a mother.
Yeah, that's something.
That's something.
But I wasn't living my life. Like I was living my life for them. It was their activities, putting, like sleeping, caretaking, all of that. And then it was to the point after COVID where I think I just burned out from like all of that. And it was like, screw this. Like, I am going to be like, maybe I was like a 75% good mom. And like, now it's like down to 50. It's like, you know what? Like, you'll be all fine. Just like,
you'll all be fine.
You'll be good. And I'm happier because I'm not striving to be super mom, because I'm striving to be happy myself, which I do trust that by them witnessing my own happiness, that they're actually becoming happy. And if we do look at the science of heart math, we know that that's possible, because the heart resonance is so powerful. So that if we're in a renewing state, everyone around us picks up on that energy.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, that does make sense. You think about when you stay in a we'll be extreme, a toxic relationship, and your children are exposed to that. That's what they're learning. That's maybe these little mini little T traumas that they are picking up. And I'm not saying that was your kids' experiences, but just to like put more perspective into it for somebody who might be thinking like, why are these 3 strangers calling me out?
Yeah. Well,
sorry about it.
It's a question that you want to ask, and this is a tough question. Nobody likes it. Is what allowed me to tolerate this? What parts of me were so wounded that I tolerated this for so long? So it's not him. He's not to blame. Meg.
Right? Meg's hiding. Yes.
So
he's just being him.
Totally. So where was I not lovable? Where did I not show up in my worthiness? Where did I not speak my truth? It's on me. I could have walked away. Like he wasn't handcuffing me to the walls, right? Like he was being him, but there were wounded parts of myself that I have to work on healing so that any relationship I get in the future doesn't look like that. Because it's still, I'm the common denominator in every relationship. So I think there is a part similar to anxiety is like, you have to step out of victim. This is happening to me, to how is this happening for me? And how am I playing a role in my own suffering? Because we absolutely all are.
Oh my gosh.
But it's and with compassion, right? We want to be mindful about it. Like we're humans. Like this is hard to live in this life. And so, but it's much easier when we can step out of that victim mindset to say, because from that space, you can actually do something. Because I can't change him. Like he wouldn't even talk to me. So how am I going to change him?
Right.
But I can change my reaction to him. I can change my response to him. I can change my sense of self-worth. I can change who I spend my time with. I can look at all those other things that I do have control over, and shift my perspective from that place.
So I think if we wrap up this entire episode, it sounds to me like you're just giving us all permission to just go live our villain era. I think that's what it is. Like that's what the kids on TikTok are saying is what I'm getting. So that's what this conversation reminded me of.
Yeah, just be you. Like
that's amazing.
Find your joy, be you, be authentic, but also be mindful. And I had this experience. I'm not going to go deep into it, but I do notice like that because I'm an only child, I think I can be a little self-focused and like think about like, oh, well, what's my experience going to be? And we do have to think about other people's experiences of our actions. And so it's not this like, oh, go do whatever you want and don't worry about anybody else. Like you want to still be mindful of, how might this impact someone that's closest to me? And it doesn't mean don't do it. It just means do it with consciousness. Like be aware of like, oh, that actually like getting divorced is certainly, like likely going to have some impact on my children, right?
Yeah.
I'm still going to do it, right? Because it's in my highest alignment. And I'm trusting that this is what they need for their soul's development, but it is harming them in some way. So it's getting to that place where you can be good with your choice and just to be in integrity, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. Yes. Be able to look back and be proud of the things that you did and the reasons why you did them.
Right. Yeah.
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 Wow. There's no right answer.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knows what they're doing.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. Tell the people what are you doing? What things have you got going on right now?
So I'm still seeing clients. If you live in New Jersey, Florida, New York, or Vermont, I'm licensed in all 4 of those states, and you can go to my website at Jennifer Bronsnick. And then I don't post too much on Instagram, except for in my stories. I post some fun things. And that's Anxiety Proof Her is my Instagram. And I think there's links in there. I have a free download of a panic attack survival guide in there. And I think I'm going to do a heart math class over the summer. So doing a little training just in heart math. So I will put that out as well. That'll be in the website or the link tree on my Instagram.
Perfect. And we'll put all of that in the notes for everybody too.
Yes.
So you guys have it all. But whoa. Yeah. There were moments of like watery eyes today. Yeah. There was a lot of like hiding our faces from like, this was an intense chat. Yeah. So I'm hoping that everybody is leaving this feeling like permission is being granted and like you have the right to be empowered. And if you need to sift through some of your own bullshit to get to that point, welcome.
Join the club.
Join the club.
Beautiful mess.
Beautiful mess. But man,
And
thank you. Thank
yes,
you so much.
thank you so much
So much
for
fun.
spending time with us. And to all our listeners, I know I'm not so good at reminding everybody, but we do put like a more concise little like action steps in the show notes. So if ever you listen to one of our episodes and we talk about a lot like this one, and you're like, all right, that was all great, but like, where do I start? Go look at the show notes. We'll have like a checklist there for you.
That's right. That's perfect. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We love you. Thank
Love
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.